Did I do that? Yeah, Steve, you kinda did. Hey there, nostalgia junkies. Remember when network execs would just toss characters from one show into another like they were playing with action figures? The 90s were the golden age of sitcom crossovers. One minute you're watching your favorite family comedy, and bam, some character from a totally different show strolls through the door like they own the place. Before we jump into this neon-colored rabbit hole, hit that subscribe button. Come on, your thumb's already warmed up from years of channel surfing, so put it to good use. And stick around until the end. We have an honorable mention that brings together not just 2, but 3 iconic sitcom families and what might be the most meaningful TV torch-passing moment of the decade. Number 1, Steve Urkel on Full House in 1991. Now we're going to kick things off with a crossover nobody asked for, but everybody remembers. Steve Urkel invaded the Tanner household. That's right, the king of nerdom from Family Matters somehow teleported from Chicago to San Francisco. This ultimate TGIF mashup aired on January 25th, 1991. The episode is called Stephanie Gets Framed. Stephanie's worried about getting glasses and feeling like a geek, but don't worry, DJ's friend Julie casually drops that her cousin is none other than Steve Urkel, the biggest geek on television. What are the odds? I love how sitcoms in the 90s acted like every character was just one random cousin away from meeting. It's like the original 6 degrees of TGIF separation, except we're not doing anything with Kevin Bacon on this one. The real beauty of this crossover was watching these 2 totally different shows collide. By this point, Family Matters had gone full Urkel with cartoonish hijinks and wild inventions. Meanwhile, Full House was still serving up heartfelt family lessons with those sappy music cues. It's like watching Bugs Bunny stumble into a Hallmark movie. Urkel shares some genuinely good advice with Stephanie, telling her to use humor to preempt any teasing about her glasses. She even borrows Joey's collection of novelty glasses to wear at school, which her teacher promptly confiscates. Coming from anyone else, this would have been super cheesy, but from someone who truly owned his uniqueness, somehow it works. That's the power of suspenders and thick glasses, folks. Behind the scenes, this was ABC's version of bringing out the big guns. Urkel was ratings gold, and they knew it. This guy was everywhere in the early 90s. He even appeared on Step by Step in September of 1991 in an episode called The Dance, which we'll talk about later. Beyond TV, he had his own action figures, lunchboxes, talking dolls, I did have one of those, and even his own cereal, Urkelos. He was basically the Nick Fury of the TGIF universe, popping up wherever the network needed a ratings boost, but instead of an eye patch, he had high water pants and a pocket protector. Next up is a crossover so subtle most people missed it entirely. Number 2, Seinfeld and Mad About You. This one is more of a shared universe reference that many viewers might have missed. In Season 1, Episode 8 of Mad About You, titled The Apartment, which aired on November 11th, 1992, Paul Buckman reveals he's subletting his old bachelor pad to Kramer. Not just any Kramer, the Kramer. Next, we see Paul standing in a very familiar hallway, and when Kramer falls out the door, as only Kramer can do, we all let out a collective scream-laugh combo.
There you go.
Hey, whatever happened to that Jerry guy who's living?
He's writing the sitcom for NBC.
Good luck to him.
The cherry on top of this was years later in the Mad About You Season 7 premiere titled Season Opener, which aired on September 22nd, 1998, Paul bumps into Jerry Seinfeld on the street. It's a brief yet memorable encounter that further ties these sitcom worlds together.
I want to autograph. Sorry to bother you. Please, sorry about it.
Interestingly, these shared universe references were primarily initiated by Mad About You. Co-creator Paul Reiser and NBC enjoyed weaving subtle connections between shows, while Seinfeld creators Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld were more reserved about crossovers. And if that wasn't enough, this interconnected web extends further. Lisa Kudrow portrayed the eccentric waitress Ursula on Mad About You, and when she was cast as Phoebe on Friends, the producers decided to make the characters twin sisters, cleverly linking the 2 shows. So while these connections were subtle and not heavily promoted, they add a rich layer to the viewing experience and truly showcase the intricate tapestry of 90s sitcoms. Now, if you're digging this trip through the TV time machine, smash that subscribe button faster than a network exec approves a crossover episode, and don't forget to ring that saved by the bell so you'll know when our video on 90s sitcom merchandise that should have never existed drops. Trust me, you don't want to miss me showing off my Urkel cereal box. Moving on to our third amazing crossover, where ABC's TGIF lineup proves that Urkel was their secret weapon, we have number 3, Family Matters and Step by Step. Now, if you thought Steve Urkel's appearance on Full House was random, well, buckle up. Our favorite suspender-wearing super nerd also invaded Step by Step in one of the most gloriously bizarre TGIF crossovers of the decade. In the episode The Dance, which aired on September 27, 1991, Urkel crash lands into the Lambert Foster family's picnic in classic Urkel fashion. Turns out, he's the computer pen pal of Mark Foster and has arrived to help him with a science project, because in the 90s, pen pals apparently just showed up at your house unannounced.
Well, actually, Al just had the good sense to listen to my good sense about your good sense. Am I making any sense?
What makes this crossover even better is that when Al Lambert's date cancels on her, guess who steps in as her knight in shining suspenders? That's right, Steve Urkel himself offers to escort her to the school dance, setting up the episode's most memorable moment. At the dance, Urkel breaks out his signature Urkel dance, a routine that had already become famous on Family Matters. It's exactly as wonderfully awkward as you'd expect, but in that special way that only 90s TV could deliver. The sight of Jaleel White doing his thing on the dance floor while the step-by-step cast reacts with a mixture of bewilderment and entertainment is pure TGIF magic. This crossover proved that ABC viewed Urkel as their secret ratings weapon, a character they could deploy across their entire Friday night lineup whenever they needed a boost. By this point, Jaleel White was basically a one-man promotional machine for ABC, bouncing between shows and bringing his signature catchphrase wherever he went.
Did I do that?
The most impressive part of it all was that these crossovers happened in a pre-internet era when you couldn't just hop online to find out which shows were doing crossover events. You either caught it by happy accident while watching TV, or you missed it entirely. For many viewers, seeing Urkel pop up on Step by Step was a genuine wait, did that really happen moment. Now for our fourth crossover, we've got a perfect example of NBC's sneaky universe building on their must-see TV lineup, and at number 4 we have Friends and Caroline in the City. Here's a perfect example of NBC's sneaky universe building. The night when Friends and Caroline in the City crossed paths in a perfectly coordinated double cameo. And it was on the same night. On November 2nd, 1995, NBC pulled off something pretty clever with their must-see TV lineup. First, in the Friends episode, the one with the baby on the bus, Chandler and Joey are out with Ross's baby Ben, trying not to lose him naturally, when they encounter Leah Thompson, clearly intended to be Caroline Duffy from Caroline in the City, even though she's never named in the scene. The guys, being Joey and Chandler, immediately switch into flirt mode because, well, have you met those two?
Who's this little cutie pie?
Well, don't think me immodest, but me?
But here's the brilliant part. The very same night, if you kept watching NBC's lineup, you'd see the Caroline in the City episode, Caroline and the Folks, where Matthew Perry appears explicitly as Chandler Bing in a video store, having an awkward encounter with Annie Spadaro, Caroline's neighbor and best friend. This was a confirmed cameo of his friend's character, making the crossover connection official. It's like NBC was saying, hey, we know you're sitting on your couch all night watching our shows anyway, so we're going to reward you with these little Easter eggs. This was cross-promotion at its finest. Subtle enough to feel special when you caught it, but not so heavy-handed that it felt forced. NBC used these kinds of character crossovers throughout the 90s to create fun connections between shows, not a full-blown universe, but just enough to make fans feel like they were in on something extra. They treated their Thursday night lineup like one big neighborhood where characters might just bump into each other while grabbing coffee or renting a movie. Remember how we all went to a store to rent movies? Anyway, for viewers, these little moments added a sense of connection between shows that made the whole NBC viewing experience a little bit more fun. And finally, we're wrapping up our list with what might be the most ambitious crossover event of the decade. Number 5, Golden Girls, Empty Nest, and Nurses, Hurricane Saturday. Okay, so picture this. Miami, 1991. NBC decides that nothing says must-see TV like a hurricane hitting 3 different sitcoms on the same night. I'm not even kidding. They created Hurricane Saturday on November 9th, 1991, where the same storm hit the Golden Girls, then Empty Nest, and finally Nurses. You get a hurricane, and you get a hurricane. Everybody gets a hurricane! Okay, now here's how it played out. In the Golden Girls two-parter, The Monkey Show, the ladies hunker down as the storm approaches. Then, over in Windy on Empty Nest, the Westons deal with their own hurricane drama with a special appearance by Sophia Petrillo from the Golden Girls, who pops in looking for batteries. Finally, in Begone with the Wind on Nurses, the hospital staff handles all the storm casualties, and we get appearances from Rose Nyland and Laverne Todd, the nurse from Empty Nest. The coolest part was watching characters just randomly pop into different shows throughout the night. It was like channel surfing, but the hurricane followed you everywhere. Could you imagine trying to coordinate something like this today? 3 different writing staffs, production teams, and casts all working together to create a single weather event across multiple shows. The showrunners would need therapy. Although, to be fair, Fox did manage something similar in 2011 with the Night of the Hurricane crossover on Family Guy, American Dad, and The Cleveland Show, so maybe not impossible, just wildly complicated. Okay, but before we wrap things up, I've got to mention one special TV moment that deserves major recognition. The ultimate sitcom trifecta that brought 3 iconic TV families together: the Jeffersons, the Banks, and the Drummond family. While George and Louise Jefferson both appeared in the 1995 episode Will is from Mars during a hilarious couples counseling session with Will and Lisa, the real crossover event that made TV history came in the series finale, I Done Part 2, which aired on May 20th, 1996. That's when the Jeffersons returned, this time as potential buyers of the Banks Bel Air mansion. In this unforgettable finale, Sherman Hemsley and Isabel Sanford reprised their iconic roles as George and Louise Jefferson, and they brought some familiar company with them. Marla Gibbs appeared alongside them as Florence Johnston, their longtime maid. And as if that weren't enough, Gary Coleman and Conrad Bain made surprise appearances as Arnold Jackson and Mr. Drummond from Different Strokes. It was the ultimate sitcom crossover, not just a fun cameo fest, but a symbolic passing of the torch. What made this moment so special was how the Fresh Prince acknowledged its roots. The Jeffersons was a trailblazing black sitcom, and Different Strokes, with its racially diverse cast, opened doors and tackled issues that paved the way for shows like Fresh Prince. By bringing these legendary characters together, the finale didn't just end a series, it celebrated a legacy of television history and gave the Banks family the perfect send-off. Okay, now be honest, which of these crossovers did you actually remember? And here's what I really want to know. Which 2 90s sitcoms should have crossed over, but never did? And there you have it, 5 sitcom crossovers you completely forgot about. The 90s were wild, y'all. But before you hit stop on this nostalgia trip, drop a comment telling us which crossover was your favorite or which ones we totally missed. Smash that like button faster than Urkel could say, "Did I do that?" and subscribe for more trips down TV memory lane.